Please welcome Chadwick Boseman.
I didn't expect you to do that.
Welcome to What do you mean you didn't expect me to do that? Everywhere you go now for the rest of your life, you will be greeted like this.
You are not lying.
You are the king of Wakanda, my friend. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Oh, wow.
I've been a fan of yours for such a long time, and I've watched you go from film to film, and you've played some of the most iconic people on screen. But there is something truly different and magical about this character. Could you feel it when you were making Black Panther?
I think the whole cast, we knew how special this project could be. We knew what the comic book was. We knew what the whole idea of this technologically advanced nation in Africa, that essentially they're the oldest people on the planet.
Right.
That's that idea that it was a revolutionary one that we knew we could throw a lot of our passion into, and we didn't know how people would receive it. We didn't know, that it would be this sort of impact. That
right.
We knew that it would be important to see a black superhero. We knew that would be interesting. We knew that, once people saw what these women were, that would impact some people, but you don't know if that's going to be a niche group of people that love it. And you also don't know if it's going to, if the studio is going to put everything they can into it. And
right.
I have to give Marvel credit and Disney credit for, throwing the book at it. Right. Essentially is what they did.
And that's really what they did. I mean, like the marketing worldwide, the way the story was presented, everyone on the cast. Because what made the story special was, I don't know if it was just me, it feels like Black Panther's powers come not just from his suit, but from his people.
From his tradition.
From his tradition,
Yeah,
from
yeah.
his tribe, from the women around him. It was really special to see a situation where it didn't feel like anyone was a sidekick. It felt like everyone was part of a team. Was that something that you were focusing on in the way you treated your stars in every scene?
Absolutely. I felt like in order for him to be a good king, one of the good signs of someone who is wise is that they disseminate responsibility.
Right.
So I felt that, his father would have taught him, use everybody's skills. Don't try to do everything.
Right.
You can't be everywhere at one time. So it was important for Denai to be as strong as she is.
Uh-huh.
It was important for Lupita to be as strong as she is. And I felt like, what we had, as far as, there's no real, I don't think there's a villain in this movie. I think you have two sides of the same coin.
Right.
The Killmonger story and the T'Challa story.
Yeah.
We treated it that way. Michael and I kept ourselves separate and came together at certain points so that we could create this sort of tension on scene, but in the scenes. But it was a collaboration, I think, for everybody.
That's an interesting idea, that there was no villain. It was two sides of a story. I mean, more than ever in America right now, people feel like, oh, there's a villain, there's no villain. It feels like every story needs to have that, but that's what made Black Panther so complicated. And I won't give any spoilers away, but it felt like a story where you truly did not know how you felt. Mm-hmm. You just had to work on how you felt about how the people were trying to do what they were trying to do.
Well, it doesn't let anybody off the hook.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think that's the key thing, is that I think when everybody is the hero in their own story.
Right.
like you should be the hero in your own story. You should be, you should see yourself conquering, the dramatic action of whatever you're trying to do. So when you get to crisis, you know how to deal with it. You
Right.
should be able to do that. And there are people that come in and help you with your story, but you have to be the person who deals with the conflicts that are in place. Nobody else can. There's no Deus Ex Machina that's going to come in and save it for you. Even if you pray to God, God expects you to do some things. So I think you have to be that hero.
I know that I felt that, and I connected with so many of the characters in different ways, not just because of who they were and what they were doing, but also because of home. Like, I was really impressed by the fact that everyone in the movie had an African accent. And what was cool was it was African accents from different places. You know, like Mbaku had a Nigerian-inspired accent. You know, and Nakia had an accent that had flair, like a bit of Kenya in there. And T'Challa came out, and there was a moment in the movie where I was watching you, and I was like, why does this sound like a little bit of a young Nelson Mandela? There was like a, was there like a Xhosa inspiration behind the accent?
Absolutely. You know, that was the sound of my dialect coach.
Oh, wow.
And so I wanted that sound specifically because I felt like the clicks are an indication, like it's believed that languages that have the clicks, they're among the oldest.
Right,
and
right,
so
right.
I felt like that was a great sound for this particular character. And you know, the point that you just brought up about each person having a different sound, we felt like we were taking the continent and sort of closing it in, like compressing it and saying everything that we love about the continent came from here.
Right.
So you can pull from every place because there's a dispersion from Wakanda. So yes, she could have a Kenyan hint in her accent. It also allows each actor to bring things that are close to them to the story.
Right.
So as opposed to like some people might be like, well, you can't just have this generalized Africa where people are picking from anything they want. But if it becomes from an organic truth and an organic DNA, which is what we did, then and everybody's on the same page, then it becomes something that is real. So.
Was a part of you worried though that everyone having African accents would be something that like the studio or even moviegoers wouldn't gravitate towards?
I wasn't worried.
So somebody was worried. Somebody was worried.
I wasn't. I wasn't worried because I had seen, you know, I'd seen John Connie doing Shakespeare. You know what I'm saying? I'd seen who plays my father in the film. I had seen, you know. African Zulu Macbeth. You know, I'd seen that before. So I already knew it worked. I had seen that from my college years, that this could work. You know, other people hadn't seen that. So I knew that an African accent could carry all of that passion in the English language, you know, just as well as a British one could, if not better. And so, you know, for me, when I heard things like, people can't listen to that, you know, for an entire film, if, you know, they were just talking about me doing it. I was like, no, we're gonna go to Wakanda one day. and if, in my mind, I was like, if I have a British accent right now, what's gonna happen? When the rest of the nation is speaking with a British accent.
I'm just picturing that
it would
scene.
Be horrible.
I'm just picturing that cut out of the movie right now. It's like Black Panther coming back and everyone's like, my king, you have returned. He's like, well, hello there, yes.
Yeah.
Well, hello, good to be back.
When we were debating it, I had that nightmare. I was like, no boy.
Like, the movie connected with so many people on so many levels. And one thing I really enjoyed was I got to watch the film in New York City. I got to watch the film with many different people from different walks of life. I watched how it touched many African Americans. What I also loved, though, was how that authenticity translated back to Africa, back to South Africa. I saw people back home who embraced the movie just as much as people did here, which is not an easy thing to do because Africans get portrayed in a certain way in film. And a lot of the time, we watch movies and we're like, who are they trying to imitate right now? What part of Africa is this? But people loved it back home. People loved it in the motherland. Was that something that was important for you? Did that touch you?
I can't even put into words what that feels like because you know, on both sides, as an African American, and you know, seeing people from the continent, I've seen the divide for my entire life. You know, I've grew up and I remember hearing the term African booty scratches as an insult. You know, I remember that. And then I went through my phase of trying to find Africa and not knowing, well, which place am I from? You know, and I've seen Africans who viewed us in a particular way where you're not connected. You don't know where you're from. And at the same time, love parts of our culture. So there's like there's been this weird dynamic. You know, I don't know the oral tradition because I didn't grow up with it. You know, from you know, if I knew exactly where I came from growing up, I would have had an oral tradition from that place.
Right.
I never had that. So this movie, in a certain way, creates a story that we all share. And it's the first time I feel like that's ever happened. Where,
I feel like
where it's like, okay, that's our story too. And I think part of that is because you have these two characters who have this collision,
right,
and they have to go through each other and find out about each other. So even in fighting, there's a sense of kinship among them, and I think it's portrayed on screen where people accept it.
It's portrayed, it's welcomed, it's electric, and it's gonna make $1 billion plus. So congratulations. It's so amazing having you on the show. Thank you for everything you've done. I appreciate you.
Oh my God.
Black Panther is in theaters now. Chadwick Boseman, everyone.